3 million years from Earth, the Red Dwarf podcast Thanks for the Memory. Its crew, Blake Braswell, a USA native, and Lee Malaby, his English co-host. Additional. I wonder, moving into Series 4, heading into episodes I am much less familiar with, if we will see the return of Goit. What's up, Smegheads, and welcome to Series 4 of Thanks for the Memory, a Red Dwarf podcast where we rewatch every episode of the BBC comedy show Red Dwarf and discuss them. I am your host, Lee, and I am here with my good buddy, Blake.
Proudly wearing my Give Quiche a Chance shirt. That's now the uniform.
Yes, and a bit of interesting information for those in the UK. All the episodes are back streaming on the iPlayer at the moment, so that's good news. Because they took them all off, and when they came back, there was only like the first 8 series, and now all of them are back.
Oh, you know, at first I thought you went, is our show on the iPlayer? No, what are you saying?
That would be cool. But I tell you what I did see today, and again, I said this on our bonus episode that I kind of wanted to keep these in a time capsule rather than being relevant to the time that we're recording them. But I did see something in a Red Dwarf Facebook group today about the new episodes that we are getting this year, that they might not actually happen. Because apparently there's budget issues with it right now.
Do we need to run a GoFundMe or Kickstarter?
That would be funny. I didn't read the whole thing, but it sounds like they wanted more money than, I guess it's Dave, I think, that is going to air it over here, that more money than they wanted to pay for it. So whether those new episodes will go ahead this year, who knows?
You know, or if you want to get a conspiracy theory about it, is you do this, you upset a lot of people and you get a lot of attention on it.
That is true.
And then I'll tune in.
Yeah.
There you go.
So when it does happen, you've got even more people. Yeah, you know what they say, there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Nope. Well, we are moving on to Series 4, Episode 1. We are cracking ahead into the second half of what I would consider, is this like Marvel Phase 1 of Red Dwarf?
There's a definite change already. I know we'll get into it over the next 2 episodes, but there's a definite change, even from Series 3, I feel. For
sure. And it is definitely, for those folks who are doing a rewatch like us and have already seen these, I would say, like, you know, 1 through 3 is kind of a pocket, and I think 4, 5, 6 is kind of a pocket, and then together they kind of make this the original Dwarf, if you want to call it, for me anyway.
Yeah.
So this episode originally aired on February 14th, 1991, and the last episode aired December 12th, 1989. So we got out of the 80s, and there was a bit of a gap, a little longer a gap than the previous series had between them.
Yeah, I wonder when they started filming this series then, because you wouldn't think that's literally just over a year, isn't it?
Yep. So
I wonder how long after they finished filming Series 3 did they start filming Series 4? Because yes, the low budget, and yes, you can tell that they're kind of not rushed, but there's not a lot of care and attention. That sounds awful, but you know what I mean to it. It's not.
Well, I will say this: they did, and you might even have this in your trivia. They moved locations.
So I didn't, but I did see that in the trivia.
Yeah. So they moved locations, which helped them because it was a more proper studio where they could actually come in and rehearse on the pieces.
Yeah.
On the budget front, I think we'll probably talk about it. I think especially in the second episode, it's weird because these 2 episodes that we're going to talk about first have the same feeling that I have about other ones where I go, these didn't have to be first. Right. In fact, there's one that I think is a stronger first episode that we'll get to. And I wonder, especially because some of them had budget constraints that made certain things look ways, I wouldn't have put that in the first 2 episodes.
Interesting.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like there's some better budget stuff later that I would have moved around. But you never know. But I'm sure we're going to talk about those, especially I bet you and I have the same thought about the second episode. But that's not what we're talking about now. We're talking about the first episode, Camille, where Rimmer and Crichton rescue Camille, a female android from a passenger ship that has crash landed. Crichton falls in love with Camille, only to learn Camille is not who she appears to be, and she can shapeshift into Well, not quite Kachansky.
No,
Yeah, they called her that in the credits, but she was more like a female, like white version of Lister is kind of what she was.
Yeah, she was like a white version of his doppelganger from Parallel Universe.
Yes. And then also a female rimmer. And then the cat gets one.
If anyone's listening to this before you've watched the episode, please stop now and go and watch the episode first, because we basically just give all the spoilers away.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, spoilers ahead.
It's funny going on to that bit when I was watching it the other night for the third time, and I think Tracy wasn't paying full attention with me, and she turned around and she went, "How many of these have I missed?" I was like, "What do you mean? Like, how many have you watched without me?" And I'm like, "None." She's like, "Well, where have these women come from?" And I'm like, "Oh, you obviously..." I said, "You'll find out." So then,
you missed the last 5 minutes.
So then, when we got to the bit with Kat, I went, "Go on then. Now you know the premise of it. What's Kat going to walk in to see?" And she nailed it completely.
It's one of my favorite gags. I love this episode. Not as like, and we'll get to rankings, not as like, oh my gosh, it's super high ranking. What I love about this episode is like, we've played around with like, you're figuring out how to write for Crichton and what to do with Robert Llewellyn, and like, okay. And this one starts and you're like, oh man, he is fully formed. Like, like now I think before we'd seen bits and pieces of how he's going to go. And now you've pretty much seen most of the bits and pieces until he picks up a few more kind of what I guess I'll call, from a Star Trek point of view, more science officer type stuff.
Right.
But as far as his character is concerned, like you get it out the gate. The opening scene, it's funny. Like, again, and we talked about this with prior episodes. I remember that opening scene, but didn't know that it was attached to this episode by memory. Because it could just be
anywhere.
Yeah, it could be anywhere.
Yeah.
And without a doubt, it is one of my favorite opening scenes in the entirety of Red Dwarf. And from series 4 through, I haven't watched the last couple, as we're going to get to those. The running gag of him breaking his programming and trying to insult people and lie gets established very hard. But that opening scene of Lister trying his damnedest to teach Crichton to lie makes me so happy. And to say it, you really get Crichton. You also absolutely have now nailed the relationship between Dave and Crichton.
Yes.
It's been there, but the very big, it's not even like big brother. It's like uncle.
Yes.
Kind of a vibe to Crichton. Love it.
It's funny because I watched these 2 episodes and I was like, I know Blake is going to love these 2 episodes because they are very Crichton heavy. Like, they're basically, Crichton is the main character in both of these episodes to me.
Yeah. Which is funny because series 3 introduced this version of Crichton as a main character, and he did crap all in the first 2 episodes. Like barely anything. Well, backwards, he did a bit more in, but like but marooned, like he's in it for 45 seconds, So, and it's weird to introduce this brand new character and go, where'd he come from? But then, because I sure as hell didn't read that crawl.
But then they did that with the cat, to be fair. We said those first 2 seasons, it took them a long time to figure out Cat's place. And I'm going to wait until the next episode, but I'm going to bring something up about Cat I've noticed going into series 4. Yeah. Some interesting thoughts about Cat. But yes, it felt like that first, we're going to introduce him, but we're not quite sure where he's going to fit. And it also kind of takes me back to a comment that I made quite a few episodes ago where we talked about that a lot of those British isms that were so prevalent in the first 2 series of Red Dwarf have now slowly gone out. And I'm wondering if that's the influence of it going more international. I think we talked about it, didn't we? Like, when did it become a big thing in the US? And I wonder that's why Crichton's now got an American accent, whereas when we first met Crichton, he didn't.
You mean like the prior performer Crichton?
Yeah, in like was it the first episode of series 2?
Yes, I believe that's
he had a British accent. He was like a typical British butler.
Yeah, he was C-3PO in their version.
And then we brought him back in series 3 with an American accent, and I'm like, I wonder if that was a conscious decision because we're getting an American audience now.
See, and I love that because my thoughts were, I love that he doesn't sound American. Like, to me, as a kid, I never heard... He said he was doing a Canadian accent, and I went, oh, yeah, I guess I kind of see that. Like, a Canadian that has parents from Great Britain, which you get that just immigrated, and you get a lot of those, and that's what he sounds like to my ear. Okay. Like, it sounds like a Canadian who did university and his parents are from Great Britain, so he went overseas to go do. So like, because he's got this very like Canadian where it's like this sort of cadence that you do.
Yes, he does. You're right.
But then he has a slightly British version that he adds on top of it, and it's almost 3PO, but not quite. And like,
you're right. It's actually Crichton was always one of the characters I didn't mind, and I must admit, in these 2 episodes, he is by far the best character.
Yeah, I mean, and to be fair, like there is some we don't get we get some really good flashes with Rimmer. This one is spread out a little bit more, but yeah, you can kind of feel them figuring out like, oh, this Crichton guy, he's funny. What else can we do with him? We still have 30 minutes, and you just feel him kind of work. You can just feel them working it out, and in some ways it is much better because it is, from an equity standpoint, spread throughout the 4 characters a bit more. I mean, obviously Crichton's the focus on this, but I mean, once you get past Crichton,
Holly does not get a lot of airtime anymore at all.
No, Holly does not, and some of the things that will happen in future seasons start to make sense because it's almost getting like too. At first, it was like in the first series, even they would keep bringing in an excuse to bring in another actor, whether it's the manifestation of paranoia or whatever, because like they didn't have enough, or they'd bring in flashbacks with the old characters that had died, and now they're running into the other problem. Like, oops,
we've got too many characters that we have to give airtime to.
Right? Yeah, and everybody's so good and funny on their own, right? Yeah. I mean, like you could literally, if you're only going to do a 6 episode series. I mean, you could literally just give one to each person. And while Crichton gets these first 2, I will say it's about to spread out a little bit. Okay. And people get more, Whitehall, I believe, is in this series. And so you get more like focused as it goes. But
yeah, see, I don't remember that one at all. I was looking through the next 4 episodes after we finished watching these 2 again for the 3rd time last night. And I'm like, I remember Justice. And then I think there's another one that I recognized, and then Whitehall, I was like, that doesn't ring a bell.
Yeah,
but
that's a good one.
See, these 2 episodes as well go off the formula that I've said we've been having for most of the first 3 series of Red Dwarf, of where we'll have huge sci-fi concept, tiny little, like, small, sort of focused, like, human sort of, what's the word I want to like, emotional storyline. These are 2, to be fair, very similar episodes, actually.
Yes. They definitely have a very similar setup. And I don't know. These are going to be... You're probably right. I think these are all going to swing a little stronger sci-fi. This is... Series 4 is their Doctor Who era, I feel like.
Yeah, oh, you can tell that for definite. Yes, definite.
Like, and I don't even think that like it's like they're trying to rip it off or anything like that. It's just like, but I guess that's the glory too of, I don't know how this is for all British shows, but I can tell you, someone who grew up in the States, a frustrating thing for me is how formulaic we get, and especially like, oh, this works.
Let's just carry on doing that.
Don't change it. Yeah. And then at some point, your favorite show just kind of fizzles out because
it's the same thing week in, week out.
Yeah. And there's something to be said for like, if we were watching this new, I'd be like, I'm still turning in every week, even when it's like, well, that wasn't quite my favorite. But like, I like that I literally don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's, episode to episode. I mean, I kind of do because I've seen these a long time ago. But I mean, I've never watched them like this, like we have talked about prior, where you're really examining these and thinking about like, well, these 5, 6 were all written together, and these were done, and and looking at it, I think it's fun that they feel like they can kind of go off. Are you guys missing the corporate overlords that are like, we need to sell lunch boxes or toys and.
Yeah, I don't ever remember there being merchandise around Red Dwarf. There's probably more merch out there now than there was back then.
Absolutely. And as I'm sitting here drinking my coffee going, because of the time difference, 90% of the time, I'm sure I'll be filming or recording these in the morning with you. I have to get a Red Dwarf coffee mug.
Yeah, we need. Thanks for the memory coffee mugs.
Yeah,
we need a merch store.
All right. Now you've inspired me. I'm on it. I need a coffee. I need it'll be just for me, and then we'll see who else buys them.
Yeah, but just going back slightly, it's interesting as well that you bring up that they've got 30 minutes. They've actually got even more time to play with now because you haven't got that slow build intro anymore. It's like bang, credits, like opening credits, and then straight in. So they've actually got more screen time for the characters to play with than they had in those first 2 series. Because you think they had the real slow, like really slow, and then so you've actually got. I mean, it's negligible, maybe 30 seconds or whatever, but 30 seconds. Like we said it before, haven't we? Where you look at American sitcoms now, and they're like 22 minutes,
21, 22 minutes. Yeah.
And yet you look at this, because it was on the BBC, there was no commercial breaks. You're literally getting probably 29 minutes of actual TV show.
Well, now I'm really curious because why is it so 30 minutes for series 1, episode 1? And was exactly. I'm going to go to Camille just to have curiosity. We're at 27 minutes.
Okay, that's interesting.
Now, is it because you guys typically, right, you kind of have some commercials and stuff in between the shows, right?
Not on the BBC. It might be like an ad for a show coming up, but not actual commercial breaks, because the BBC is not a commercial channel. It's paid for by the TV license over here, so they don't put commercials in because they're not having to pay for the airtime like normal channels are. So you might get a commercial for like an upcoming episode of The Great British Bake Off or whatever, coming next week, but not a commercial break as such.
So what's interesting, the first 4 episodes are 27 or 28 minutes long. I know we're splitting hairs, and now I want to do, our next bonus episode is going to be the history of how BBC works, now that we're diving into this. But so this does make me wonder something, because PBS, the public broadcast system, works very similar in that way to the BBC. And that's why, one of the reasons doing the British shows work so great is you don't have to worry about commercial breaks, because they don't do them either, right? They would just kind of have, PBS is mostly through grants and then donations. So in between, they would be like, this last half hour brought to you by donations from Kaiser Permanente and viewers like you, or whatever, you know. And I will say this 27 to 28 minute probably fits really well with that. I don't know if that is a thought to it at all.
Strange,
but it isn't. So it is a little bit. It almost makes me wonder. Was the choice to tighten up the intro a choice to tighten up the intro, or was it a slight necessity if these are a slightly less time?
Weird. That's weird how I'm glad I brought that up, actually, because that seems strange that you would think these should be longer than the initial, or at least the same length, for them to be shorter seems weird. And they still do so well, cramming so much into 27, 28 minutes.
Has anyone written a production history of Red Dwarf and Lee? If not, is that what we're doing?
That would be interesting.
Is that what we're going to do?
Anyway, let's get on to the actual episode.
So sorry, as we totally just mapped out the rest of our podcasting life here and authorship.
Yeah, I'm going to go into Crichton calling Rimmer a smeghead, right? Or a smeghead, as he calls him. Right?
Yes.
So
God.
So he can't lie, is what he said, and that's why he can't call him a smeghead. Is that right?
He's not supposed to be able to lie, and he's not supposed to be able to insult people.
Okay, because I was arguing that if that was because it was a lie, but he believed that Rimmer was a smeghead, then why can't he say it?
Well, and I don't know if also there have been times where he kind of insults people, but he has to go around his elbow to get to his ass, as my grandpa would say. And So I think this is a more direct, like, screw you kind of thing, which we kind of got in the first time Crichton appeared, right? Though, hey, buddy, when he's doing his, like, Marlon Brando, the original Crichton performer. Yeah. And then flips him off.
I want to get him on the show.
Oh my gosh, yes. I don't know why this makes me laugh, but it's a small off-duty Czechoslovakian traffic warden.
Yeah.
And like his like that scene when he has his like existential angst and then that comes out, that 5 seconds is, I think, Crichton when people think of Crichton.
Yes.
You mean when I say that? Because I think we've touched on this a little bit with your shows. You've thought of, man, this is how Rimmer is. And then when we start the watch again, you're like, oh, wait. Not quite yet.
Yes.
The way I remember Rimmer is a certain way, but it takes a little bit to quite get him there. And the same thing with Dave, right? But your memory is like, you kind of remember the peak version. Yeah. That little nugget, that is like peak Crichton. And it feels like from that point on, whatever that 5 seconds is, that is literally how they do through that funnel to write stuff for him. He's so good at that.
It really is. I've, like I said to you, I've always thought Crichton was never my favorite character. But watching these 2 episodes, he's absolutely brilliant in it. He is arguably the best. Because we haven't got original Holly, he is probably my favorite character moving forward now. And
you should Robert Lewin's his like comedy and stuff. You should look it up. He is really freaking smart, I think in my years of working in theater and entertainment and stuff, the people that played like dumb or ignorant. I mean ignorant in the sense of like how Crichton doesn't know things about so literally the term of ignorant. The people that are so good at playing that are some of the smartest people I know. And he also. And you realize why the previous performer, great job, and he only had one episode to work in that makeup and stuff. But at this point, you can tell that Robert Lewin has gotten the handle on. He has been in that makeup and stared in the mirror and stuff, and he has figured out what expressions look so great in that makeup, because watching series 3, I was like, man, we don't get that, for example, that look of his smig, his lips curling down and it pulls the prosthetic. Like he has really figured out like he's a living cartoon. I think how good he is at that is more apparent in the next episode where, spoiler, he might not be in the makeup.
Which is weird. It was weird to see him without it. But
especially on my second viewing, and we'll talk about that one later, I was like, God, he really is good at, what we call clowning, that style sort of point. He's so good.
Yeah, he really was.
It's banana. It's banana. It's a what's an aardvark? What is it?
A female aardvark. It's brilliant because an aardvark's not even a fruit.
Yeah, he's gone droid mad. He's waving a banana in my face. Yes, saying it's a female aardvark.
Yeah. I want to bring up a thing that Blake's probably never heard of. Tales from the Riverbank.
Oh, yeah. So I just had to assume it was like a nature show or something. So what is, I wrote that down. What is Tales from the Riverbank?
I've never watched it. I was aware of it, but I never watched it. I was talking to Tracy about it, and I actually Googled it to find out. I was like, oh yeah, so there used to be a guy on the TV over here called Johnny Morris, and he was like a nature guy, like an animal, wildlife sort of expert, and he did a lot of sort of crazy animal shows, but he had one called Animal Magic where he put like voices over the top of real animals, like that Creature Comforts, but like
the
real,
famous honey badger one.
Kind of. Have you seen the Creature Comforts? The Aardman animation.
Oh yeah.
So like that type of thing, but real animals.
Gotcha.
And Tales for the Riverbank was the same thing. It was kind of live action Wind in the Willows.
Amazing.
But it wasn't like live action as in like Stitch live action. It's not like a Disney live action. It's like actual footage of animals like running around the riverbank and like putting voices over the top. It's
and so you'd have to go through the footage then and edit it together to kind of quote unquote make a story out of it.
Yeah, I guess so. And like I say, I never watched it, but I know what it was. It's very strange. And like Blake's not going to know what the hell Tales from the Riverbank is because I barely know what it is.
We've had so many of these that I end up asking about, and you're like, oh, it's a thing they made up or I didn't know, that I honestly just thought like, oh, I get it. I guess it's some kind of like kids nature show thing,
that's what it was.
And it is not a real thing. And then, of course, it absolutely is. And I love that then that is our second two dudes just chilling, watching a children's program, having a serious conversation about it that Kat and Dave have had.
Because you would, though, wouldn't you? You'd end up reaching a point. Like, depends on what stuff on board they've got to watch, and it's weird. It's weird how they only seem to have kids shows to watch. Like, you would think if you put that in real life on a ship, mostly with fellas on it, they would not be watching children's programs.
Yeah, you wonder like how it made it along, or like if it was being transported along with other stuff, you know. I do love how, because we're watching these in a way that they were never intended to be watched and examined, I should say, that we keep having thoughts about the reality of something, you know, and I never know like how much the crew really thought about that, putting these shows together. But I mean, look at us. We'll talk about how watched an episode. I thought it was really funny. Watched it again for my notes. And it's like, I don't know, man. Maybe that's not as good as I thought. And then I watch it the third time and go, you know what? Actually, so literally they're doing the same thing with Tales from the Riverbank.
I was just going to say exactly the same thing. Here's us like overanalyzing a TV show that was just meant to be, and no disrespect to anyone, a kind of throwaway comedy that was on a Friday night that you watched and forgot about.
Oh, yeah. They never thought it would do like what it had done. You bring up a good point, though. I wonder, you would think around series 4 would be when it's like,
we've got something
it's not
here. Yeah.
A phenomenon, but like, I don't know, maybe fan letters are coming in from the States because it's airing in PBS. And that's going to be our, maybe when we're done with all these.
It is very interesting looking at it from a point where, like I said, when it first started, it was very, very British. Like, these weird references to, like, Bernie Inns and Teasy Weezy and all the rest of this stuff that was like, what the hell? And it's like, we have taken some of them away and brought in some US references. There's one in the next one that I thought was such a weird reference, but we'll get there. But we're still going to keep some in, like Tales from the Riverbank. It's just weird the stuff they chose to put in there that wasn't massively pop culture at the time anyway, but it's just odd the things that they chose to have as like comedy references, like pop culture references, was so weird.
Well, that blew my mind on the first couple of series where I would ask you something and go, well, this must be a fairly well-known thing in the UK that I'm not aware. And you're like, well, actually,
not really. Not. And that's what's so weird about it.
Right. Like, it's this world where it's a universe where in Red Dwarf's universe past, certain things were way bigger deals than they ever were at the time. And I freaking love that. It's so... It adds a level of unhinged to it that I really enjoy.
It's very... I would love to be able to watch these as I am now, back when they came out, if that makes sense. Not with the knowledge that I have now, but as an older man, to watch these and go, what the hell's that? Why of all the things have you chosen that reference? Just bizarre. It's very strange.
This episode also starts to bring in a ongoing thing of sometimes they come back and they are true sayings that he has, and this is one of them. But we start to get this idea that Crichton has a series of catchphrases that he keeps doing. And this has one of my favorite ones of, oh, spin my nipple nuts and send me to Alaska. And like, that will come up again. And like the idea that he's been hanging around with the guys enough that like, the dude stubbed their foot and probably like curse up a storm and punch a wall. He can't, that's his version of doing that. And like, to get meta about Crichton a little bit, the longer he's with them, the more weird things he does that they're weird is that it's like he's trying to be more like them, but he's got to do it in his way.
Yes.
And that's a really fun way to write for that. I think a guy like Robert Llewellyn.
Yes, there we go. I was going to pull you up, but thank you for yes, it is Llewellyn.
Llewellyn. He's so good at it that I would be shocked to not find out by some point in the table reads before they filmed and stuff, he's starting to throw in his own things and stuff too. Not to knock the writers, but just that I feel like, once you start figuring out what it is they're trying to do and how they're working together, he's just so good at those.
See,
he's so good at those.
A question. Do we know how old Crichton is? I mean, I know he's a mechanite, but do we know how long he's been around?
Because my question is, obviously everybody on Red Dwarf died 3 million years ago, and are there any humans left? Well, have they answered like this is the newest recording or something that Holly's ever intercepted? I don't know that they've told us how things with humanity are at this point. Like, there's leftover stuff, and they keep running into things, that were made by humans. But that's a really good question. I mean, he's been alone, in some reality, for quite some time that he was on the Nova 5.
So I've just Googled it, and according to Google AI, he is millions of years old.
Well, don't forget, Google AI will also tell you to eat rocks. But anyway,
I'm just putting that out there. That's what I read.
So he's built in 2340, according to that. And so
he was built in 2340. Yeah, so he's not that old then by that, because it's referenced in the next one that they're in the 20. I think Lister says something about, I'm just the average 23rd century guy.
And it's like, that math doesn't add up, right? Because Red Dwarf took off earlier. Crichton is newer than Red Dwarf.
Right. Well,
otherwise, I think, because I think the concept is Red Dwarf would have had plenty of androids.
That's true. Yes, that makes sense. If we want to believe that when they wrote this thing, they were writing it to that level of detail.
Well,
but yes, because you think the Scutters.
I do think,
the Scutters were like the first, the sort of first iteration of mechanized help droids. So yeah, that makes sense. Because
that's how I took it. Yeah, the Scutters were iPhone 1, and
because they've completely disappeared at this point.
Yeah, I don't think. Oh gosh, I have this memory that they will pop up at some point. I don't know if it's, but even last season we thought they weren't showing up, and then they popped up for a quick thing for an episode.
I do want to chime in. Right, we're 32 minutes in at this point, and we've barely talked about this episode.
I know. Well, this episode, it does so much to kick off how things are going to move forward for a little bit. You know what I mean? You'll appreciate this for anybody that listens to your other podcast.
Oh God, no one then.
The corridor that Crichton rescues Camille from is such a classic HHN haunted house hallway for a quote unquote sci-fi haunted house.
Yeah, there's very much the next episode. We're going to see a lot of that as well.
And let me give you circa 2012. Like I see that and it reminds me of that. And we'll talk about the next episode too, because I may have repeated myself there.
I think so completely, because it's very much that. We've established that the writers and the people working on the show were big Alien, as in Ripley, Sigourney Weaver, Alien movie fans, which funnily enough, because of you, I've just watched Alien and Aliens this week, because I haven't watched them in such a long time, that you can see the interior of this and definitely the next episode were very much based on that sort of H.R. Giger sort of look of an alien spacecraft.
H.R. Giger with a dollar store budget.
Well, yes.
I don't know. Well, I do know there were some budget constraints they ran into, and they went, screw it. If Doctor Who can do it, we can do it. And I feel like that when I say there's a Doctor Who to it, I don't even think they tried to do it. It's just that they were like, you know what? If it works for that, and it's trying to quote unquote be serious, let's do it. You know what I mean? Whereas like the previous series would have like like this really good set, and then this box that's the Holly Hop drive that looks like it's in a school play. And right now we're kind of more in. Well, it's in between. You've got some really great model shots and stuff that are really good, like exteriors of the ship and stuff. And then you have like really chintzy pieces here and there.
There's an interesting shot in the next one I'm definitely going to bring up.
Well, I do love that for the design of Camille, they decided to pretty much do Crichton, but with spiky boobs.
Yes.
Like spiky Madonna, if anyone remembers that Madonna costume.
She had an American accent as well, or? or Canadian English, whatever you might be.
It's very light. Yeah, it's very. It makes me think of that mid-Atlantic accent that would happen in the 30s. You see, and it kind of sometimes had a few things that would almost cross over to British, but it was a weird radio voice that didn't really exist.
And the funny thing about her was, she is his wife.
Yeah, they were dating at the time.
Yeah, that's super cool.
And they're still together now. I came across that last night, and my wife's out of town. My daughter visiting her mother, or visiting my in-law, my wife's mother. There you go. And I said, the Camille. She was dating him. They're still married now.
That's brilliant.
And she's like, that's so adorable. I love it. I wish I had come across that before I started the second watch, because it kind of makes it all the more adorable. I did appreciate the thing that Robert Llewellyn said, that he would complain about the makeup all the time and she didn't say a word.
Yes, I did see that. Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Because there's a bit to do with the makeup in the next episode where he invited, was it his nephews onto the show? And it was, anyway, we'll get onto that later. I did find it funny when they get the initial distress signal, you see Rimmer entirely. It's like, how long till it blows up, basically? And it's like, 2 hours. It's no time, we haven't got. And like, he will not risk himself for anybody at all, even though he can't die.
And he's like, I'm not going to go. And what does Crichton say? Like, does he say like there could be a life form, or there's a registered life form on board?
I think he says there could be. I think there is. I think they know there is. But he's like, but we could rescue them. And he's like, it's not worth the risk.
And what I love is this is the first time, again, I don't know how much they think about this. He cannot lie. We talked about the opening scene. He's trying to lie, and he gets to do it in front of Dave Lister. But when the cat comes in, he can't lie in front of the cat. Like he gets gets shy about
Stage fright, doesn't he? Because he even sort of references the fact that what's the human equivalent when you're trying to pee? It stood next to someone who's 6'5". Yeah.
Well, you're standing next to one of my good friends who's way too tall.
Ferris. I've stood next to Ferris. I feel very small next to Ferris.
But in this, I like that he can get over it and can lie, because he's going to do it to possibly save somebody.
Yes.
And I love this core of it's that. And if Lister was in the ship and there was no Crichton, he would say, no, we're going to go.
Yeah.
And that's this core thing where those two kind of buddy up in a way, even though that they're kind of opposites, because Crichton's built to serve. And then I like that Cat and Rimmer would probably have the same reaction of like, oh, that's tough luck. Yeah. We got to get out of here.
Yes.
And so even though they're very different, that's kind of like this core thing that they share. But I love the introduction of her. So good. It was, I knew what was coming, but it was fun watching it with my wife, who, didn't know. I don't think she'd seen that episode when we first watched it, but it's a good reveal. Yeah. And then you just think she's a bad guy when she's like, oh no, there's more people. Oh, that won't work.
Yeah, you can't. I told you I was watching it with Tracy last night, and she wasn't fully paying attention. And she was like, hang on, how many episodes have I missed? I was like, what do you mean? Like, how many episodes have you watched without me? And I'm like, none. It's like, well, where the hell have these women come from? Like, you need to pay attention a bit more.
I thought it was interesting because you would have thought to save money, they would just use the Camille actress to get out of makeup and change costumes a couple different times.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, yeah, it's interesting you'd say that. Go on, sorry, Blake, and I've got something to go in off the back of that.
Well, because you would think you would do that. I think one of the reasons they didn't is there was, this Gelf, the genetic engineered life form, which I feel like that concept is in the novel before this show comes out.
Okay.
As they were trying to do creatures because in Red Dwarf world, there are no aliens.
Yes,
it's all stuff made by humans.
Yeah, you've said that right from the beginning, and everything so far has definitely proven that to be true.
Yeah, because this is totally, speaking of Doctor Who, an alien from Doctor Who. That's what this is, except it's not. It's a Gelf.
Because it does look like a Doctor Who alien.
Yeah.
With a penis for an eye, by the way. That's very phallic, that eye. I couldn't watch it last night without giggling.
Well, the whole, every time they said Gelf, I'm just thinking of Dark Crystal. That's all I'm thinking of is Dark Crystal over here. But I like, I like the way they lean into that. But once you realize, and I think it's much more apparent to me reading the books than the show, about how they talk or a bit more about no alien stuff. Now in the show, like they keep, Rimmer keeps getting excited. Maybe there's an alien, and there never is one. It's always some crap that humanity has made, which again, to me is kind of like the Crichton series model. I am unsure if Lister knows what and the episode doesn't answer this. I'm unsure if Lister knows what a Gelf is. I don't know that existed in what would have been his contemporary time, or if that is a human invention following when he went into stasis.
It's interesting because when he tells Kat, he tells him like he knows what it is.
And I didn't know whether did he or did he get that from her? Did she explain it? And I'm a little unsure because I keep forgetting because the show is a little loosey goosey on this too. As they encounter stuff from humanity, what's left behind humanity, sometimes Lister acts like he knew all about it.
Yes.
And then other times it's very clear that this is the quote unquote, even though it's the past, it's the future for him because these are things he didn't get to see happen. And I'm not sure where the pleasure Gelfs and the Gelfs fall in on that.
But this it kind of brings up something that I looked at because you said it would have been quite easy for them to have, like, say if it was Judy Pascoe and then just change costumes, and they didn't. I wonder how that worked filming it in front of a live studio audience because it still feels like it is.
Yes.
So I wonder how they filmed that with like three different, because there is the scene where and funnily enough it turns out that Lister's object of desire was his then girlfriend as well, Susan Radigan, which I thought was really interesting.
That's hysterical. Yeah.
That point when it's switching between Rimmer's and Lister's, how that worked watching it from a live audience perspective, because they laugh at certain points like you would if it was happening, like literally happening in front of them. So I wonder how that worked. I wonder what they got to see as an audience.
Yeah, I wonder if they just watched them film it with one of them the whole way through, and then the next one the whole way through, and then the next one
and then spliced. Oh, yeah, okay, that would be interesting. Yeah,
but do the jokes land? Yeah,
it'd be weird.
And would it be funny because she's saying something different this time when you watch it than she said last time? I do love the hologram that shows up as Rimmer's object of desire. One, she shows up in a future costume of Rimmer. Like, okay. When I think of Rimmer, I don't think of the green. I think of his red uniform. And what she's wearing will be his next uniform, I believe.
That's weird, isn't it? That just shows you how differently rooted we are in what series are the sort of quintessential ones for us. Because you see Rimmer in his red outfit. For me, Rimmer is second technician outfit.
Right. I see him in that red outfit. Like, yep, the green is always like feels temporary to me.
They obviously saw it and went, that red, actually, that's really nice, isn't it? Let's move that forward.
That looks good. Probably better for the blue screens and green screens.
Probably. It's funny how he introduced himself as Duke and not Ace. He obviously decided Ace wasn't going to stick, so I need to come up with something else now.
Well, just so you know, the guys around here call me Duke.
Well, sometimes.
His pause before that is so great. They call me Duke. Is so good. And it's like, well, but it's been a while since I've called me Duke, so they generally might not remember to call me Duke. So don't call me Duke in front of the guy. It's so good.
There was one thing there was a word he delivered that kept driving us up the wall watching it last night when he's talking about how attractive his object of desire, Camille, is to him. And Crichton obviously sees him as a female Crichton. And she's like, she looks just like my cousin Janine. And he says Janine, like the emphasis on Jan, and it's Janine. Weird. Like, no one says Janine. You would say Janine. She's Janine, not Janine. And I was like, stop talking about her. You're driving me up the wall now.
Because the first time you hear it, you don't even realize, like, wait, what I'm hearing is the name Janine. But the way he's saying it, weird. Would you say the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable?
Exactly, yeah. Janine. It's very odd. It was annoying me.
I do adore that conversation, by the way, when he's like, she does? Was she okay? Did she get in a horrible accident?
It's like, no, she was a model.
like what for? Spark plugs? Yeah. That's what it was.
Oh, missed that.
Yeah, so good. What for? Spark plugs? I mean, that bit again. It's between the learn how to lie and Smeghead at the beginning, and then that conversation between him and Rimmer. Done. Crichton is done. Put it in a box. Everything you need to know, bam, is like right there. It's so good.
It's interesting going back to something we mentioned before, and I don't know whether it's just on IMDb. You said it was in the credits. In the credits, is she mentioned as Kachansky Camille? In the actual show credits. So,
which I don't think throws me off because if she were Kachansky, he would react to her being Kachansky.
Yeah, which is weird that they would put that in there in the credits, because apparently it was originally supposed to be Kachansky, but they figured that it would tip everyone off to her not being Kachansky, because obviously Kachansky's dead.
Because they were going to bring her back. Like at least according to IMDb, it sounded like she had been contacted and they were going to do a Kachansky.
Okay.
Up here, at least the way it was kind of written, it didn't come across written as like, oh, here's an idea we have that we never got to. But that would make sense. But then you'd have the girl that looked like, and I guess it's true. The Pleasure Gelf would have to know if she shows up just like him. So like you said, instead, it's like his alternate universe version.
Yeah. It's weird
more than anything.
Spoilers for anyone who's actually watching along for the first time, has never seen future episodes. Kachansky does come back, and I can't remember how they write her back in.
Oh, we'll get there.
I can't remember. So I'm interested to find that out, because I remember her being in it, and I actually really liked the actress that played Kachansky in the later seasons.
Yeah,
she's much more attractive than Claire Grogan, to be fair, in my eyes, but all right. But I can't remember how they write her in. Anyway, spoilers.
Yeah, she had a Peggy Carter about her. I liked a whole lot.
Yes.
And she is in the cooking episode that I've referenced a few times, where I got to see if I can find it, where the cast and character teaches how to cook a curry dish, and she's very funny in it. She's very funny in it.
Because she's another one. I've never seen her in anything else.
I don't know that I have either. I wrote this note down because one thing, so it's funny because you talk about your reference points. So one thing I didn't like, I don't like about Lister in the first couple of series is he's so dumb. Like, he's very... And I even like, to be honest, the way that it now actually watching these so close together, it's like we're watching someone grow up.
Right.
And we are actually in real life. We're watching this guy grow up, get older. But it comes across as that, I mean, like, and it's funny now to be able to watch them so quick and know where things are going. It didn't bother me because I'm like seeing this young Lister who will kind of, there's something that happens with him and Rimmer that starts to get peeled away, where that stuff that you do, the way you, God, this is really getting heavy again, like just like the first episode, where you pretend there are just airs and stuff you put on because society says you ought to, or it works being this way works at your work well, or whatever, and like, and for Lister, it's like this, fight the man, which when even he meets his like super younger self, who's like, you crypto fascist, and he's like, stop saying that. And I do like how, and he was almost like proud about like, what? So I don't know about it. I'm not a nerd. Of course I don't know these things, and now that's pulled away and he's more of an adult, I love how quickly Lister understands what's up with Camille and doesn't freak out about it, and doesn't like, he just like, okay, yep, this all makes perfect sense. Yep. And it's such a common sense thing that I love so much. It's a little thing, but I really like it. And again, it makes it's keeping the way he starts the episode, where this episode is very Uncle Lister. I'm here to help out, guys, kind of a vibe. But then I love that as much as he's like that, and then he runs into the cat and explains the situations, how things are. Then the cat's like, well, I still want to see what I see. And then when he comes back, Lister literally reverts back to series 1 Lister, and he's like, "What did you see, man? What did you see?" And he wants to know, like, and he's just like another dude at that point.
Yeah,
and I love that, and I think it's one of the reasons I love the Lister character so much. Is like somehow that feels super real.
Yes.
In this crazy story, that kind of behavior, it just, I don't know. I love it. I think that, and I don't know if they thought about it that hard, but I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny, that bit though, when Kat's like, "Oh, let's see," when he walks in, he's just like, "What's up, buddy?" Of course.
"What's up, buddy?" Of
course it would be himself.
Also, I had to rewind it. Well, I had to rewind it 3 times because the high five they give each other is so good.
I noticed that watching it last night. Yeah, it looks really good.
And usually whenever they do a double like that, the gag is funny, but you can kind of see where, okay, well, they're not going to get too close. And you can see them, trying to make the gag work. That one's great.
It was. I was surprised at how good it looked.
It's so good, isn't it, in the intro?
I find that, it's something I'm going to bring up as well. You give me the perfect lead in. I find it strange in the intros to TV shows why they show clips from future episodes.
Oh, man. Can I tell you the one that drove me? This is a whole tirade. Did you watch the modern, it's not really modern now, mid-2000s, whatever, Battlestar Galactica
No.
reboot? It's great, and you should. But so this was Netflix DVD days, as we would get them mailed to us to watch the series. They did something differently. Their intro was always the same with the music, and then they would insert cuts from that episode.
See, that's even worse. Why?
Well, and for a TV show that is predicated on like twists and turns, and oh my God, I can't believe I saw that coming. Yeah. I don't even like, if I really want to see something, trailers, because
not now.
My brain remembers a set or someone on a set, and then I see the movie and this character's like, they're gonna die. My brain will go, no, they won't, because I saw the trailer and I haven't seen this scene yet.
Yes,
and I don't like that. And
trailers are awful. I hate trailers nowadays because they just show you everything.
Yes, and I am with you. Like it is a weird thing. I don't like when things show you stuff from future shows. There's a modern thing that's happening where like they will show an intro, and then as the show goes on, they'll tweak the intro with things you have seen.
I like that.
And I think that's fun. But I'm with you. That Battlestar Galactica one, though, literally, we'd put in the DVD, we'd start the episode, and I'd fast forward through the intro every time, because one of them really ruined something that I was like, this should have been a huge reveal. And it was in the show, a reveal, but
Because I'm with you. Rick and Morty does it as well. And it's weird. I'm terrible with trailers. Tracy's getting to the point now where she's like, I'm not watching trailers. I don't want to watch trailers anymore. Although I did have to watch the new Daredevil Born Again trailer last night because I am so excited for that TV show. But anyway.
Yeah, that also looked very good. It bothers me less for a TV series because there's so many either returning sets or changes that happen before it comes up. I don't feel like it ruins things. Movies are the worst, though, where you're like, especially if it's a comedy. I got to tell you, when they talk about, man, people just don't come into movies for comedies anymore.
Because you've seen
I don't know if it's a chicken or egg thing. I have to wait till it comes for home release. So I hopefully have forgotten the trailer I saw because you put all the funny parts in the trailer.
Because apparently it's a generational thing now. We're going completely off tack now. Apparently it's a generational thing that we've got all these people with autism and ADHD now that people can't handle surprises. So they have to put it all out there for people to see.
I don't know. They say that. I don't know. But like, I feel like that's a marketing thing to be like, give me the excuse to put out everything I want. Because people don't want twist and surprise. They want to know if it's good or not. Yeah. And I'm like,
I want something to grab my attention. I always remember going to the cinema to see something way back in the late 90s and seeing the first trailer for The Matrix. And the first trailer for The Matrix was literally 30 seconds long. It was Neo on top of that skyscraper with him shooting at the agent, and the agent doing that weird, and he like splits in to dodge the bullets on the top of the building in the first Matrix. And I was like, holy, what is that? And I was just like, I'm in. I want to see it now. And that was it. The trailer was literally just that. Yeah, you don't see that anymore. It's just like a condensed version of it's like the YouTube short of the movie.
Yeah. Oh, that's a really good way of putting it. Yeah. And like, I don't like that you literally know like you will watch, I'll go to the theater and then see a trailer and go, I don't need to go out of my way to see. I understand this movie so well that they've said too much. And I have a hard time, especially when they talk about the struggle of getting people in to see things, that it is true. People don't want surprises, because on the other side, TV shows will become very popular. People go, oh my God, if you watch it, okay, well, I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah.
Because, and I'm like, people still obviously like that. So
strange. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But then how many, like, we watched Squid Game 2 over Christmas, and Tracy got the end spoiled by someone on that, and I'm just like, why do people just shut the fuck up? I
know, man. Well, because like, and I know again it's a marketing thing, but I'll use Doctor Who as a reference again. Man, I would love every time there's a transformation or I'm using the word, what is it called, when Doctor Who changes to another performer, regeneration.
Yes.
Every time there's one, I always think, God, how cool would it be if I didn't know this was happening this episode and I didn't know who it was going to be.
Yeah.
Like, and you're like, what? You know, and it's funny. They did do that for a surprise Dave Tennant reveal on one, but like, I just think, God, that'd be so cool. But then I know from a marketing point of view, like, we want to talk about, so people tune in to see it. And I'm like, whatever.
But if people love the show, they're going to want to watch the next one. I don't get it. I don't get it at all.
You got to get those clicks, man.
It's because people only have the attention span of because I know you guys don't have it anymore, but a TikTok video.
Yeah. Well, no, we got it for another day.
Okay, is it? Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
We'll see.
So when this comes out, TikTok's gone.
We have potentially launched 4 new podcasts in this conversation about this episode.
Anyway, going back, by the way, the whole reference at the end of obviously Casablanca. I've never seen Casablanca, and I know that's sacrilege to say that I've never seen Casablanca before.
I love the lean into this. By the way, I do love the reference of throwing out the actor Carl Malden.
Yes.
Was a famous movie star, but he wasn't attractive. Talking when he sees, I think you look really nice, when she's a big pile of, what does the cat say? You like something that dropped out of the Sphinx's nose.
Yeah.
Which he said a couple of things last series that I'm like, why is he referencing some of these things? Before it was all through Cat World, and now I'm starting to wonder, like,
does Cat know what the Sphinx is?
Well, at this point, is him and Lister watching old videos and stuff? Is he like?
But that's an assumption, isn't it?
Yeah, it is an assumption, because I also think, drops out of the Sphinx's nose is,
the Sphinx doesn't have a nose.
Well, it fell off, but like, it's also like a stone stack. I feel like it could have been anything. It looks like something. A joke could have been like, that looks like something that fell out of Lister's nose.
Yeah.
Blah, blah. You know what I memean? So it feels like a kid that's learning how to make pop culture references.
Maybe. Okay.
But I don't know. It does have a weird, because he does them, but they have a weird, tension. But they all do it. Like, why the hell does Crichton talk about Carl Malden?
Yeah, this is what I mean. Some of the references, like I said, there's another one in the next episode, and just the pop culture references they use are so odd.
Yeah, Carl Malden, that is, I had to look that up.
Wasn't he in the streets of San Francisco?
Yeah, I recognize him now. I'm like, yeah, I know who that is, but man, would that have been on the tip of my tongue when this aired in 91?
But hey, no one's ever accused Red Dwarf of being on the tip of pop culture.
No, teasy weasy, not at all.
I still love that one. That is one of the best reveals, or not reveals, like the information things that we've sought out on any podcast so far, of finding out what the hell Teasy Weezy was, and going, holy who the hell knew who that was?
You just picture guys on the set like, funny, right? This is going to be funny.
And like all the audience, the thing is, the audience laugh. So, and you can't tell me all that audience knew who the hell Teasy Weezy was. So bizarre.
It's so weird. I love this show.
I love delving into the that we delve into talking about it, because we just go off on some really weird tangents.
Oh, I have a Britishism.
Go on then.
It was toward the end. they're speaking of Casablanca. They're watching Casablanca, and then Holly pops in. She goes, "Sorry to Gooseberry, but we've got a visitor."
So a gooseberry is if you go out. Oh no, it isn't a weird reference. So if say you and your good lady wife went out on a date, and let's say Ferris was like, "Hey guys, I'm in town. Can I hang out?" And you'd be like, "All right then." He would be playing gooseberry. I don't know where the term comes from, but that's what it means. You're basically the odd one out in a couple.
Because I was like, is it like a goose just going and like interrupting them? I didn't understand. So specifically, it's like saying sorry to be a third wheel on your date.
Yes, I don't know where the term comes from, but that's what it means. I'm going to Google it. Let's see what it comes up with.
That's hysterical because I was like, well, I'll put this one down because I've heard a lot of different slang, but that one didn't ring a bell.
Yeah, in British slang, gooseberry can also refer to an extra person who is present when two other people want to be alone. This is often used in the phrase play gooseberry, but it doesn't explain why. Interesting. He was left to play gooseberry while the other two talked, and it's very strange. I don't know where it comes from.
And that's about one of 6 lines Holly had? It wasn't a lot.
No, at all. And like the next one, there's some definitely some interesting Holly bits in the next one. I can't wait to bring one of them up. Is very strange that I don't think when they wrote that joke they were actually thinking about the larger context of Holly, but that's for the next episode anyway.
Oh, okay, good. I don't know what that is off the top of my head.
It's interesting.
Should we get to our rating? How are we? Oh my gosh!
Yeah, we've waffled. Anyone
this
tuning
one was
in,
fun. We had a more of a wild conversation than I would have guessed out of this one.
Well, how many times have we said that though? Anybody tuning in to this Red Dwarf podcast will not be expecting what they've got over the last hour, that's for sure.
No, not at all.
Like I say, we don't know where we're going to go because Blake and I don't really talk to each other about the episodes until we literally sit down to record, which I like. So we have no idea where the conversation's going to go.
Oh, yeah. Usually the most we get is a text that's like, just finished whatever.
Yeah.
This is
thoughts.
interesting. I have thoughts.
That's literally usually it, isn't it? Interesting, or I have thoughts. And you're like, oh, good. And that's as much as we talk about them.
We save it all for you all.
And that's why we end up on some really odd tangents.
Well, this one definitely took us to some tangents I didn't expect.
So discussing this episode with you has elevated it more, made me realise definitely the third viewing was worth it. I know I've said this previously where I thought the third viewing sometimes could be a viewing too far. With this one, I don't think it was. I definitely appreciated it more. It definitely made me realise how much I actually do like Crichton. And then the next one kind of drives that home for definite. He is definitely the star of this episode, and I would probably say the next one. Again, some of the jokes were still a bit so I think I'm going to give it a 7.
I gave it a strong 7, and my strong was for solidifying some character stuff. But the overall jokes, I'll agree with you. Like, overall, there has been much, it's no, April Fools,
No.
April, May, June, July Fools. It's no joke like that. There's no crazy, just knock it out of the park.
Yes.
Haha, funny. But it does settle the characters. And I wrote, it's solidification of Crichton's character. He's so sweet. You just have to love him. But also, it's starting to solidify how the rest of how this new dynamic, how they view each other, how they work with each other, So kind of going off the back of that, I'll bring it up in the next one, but there's a character I feel is getting a bit shortchanged at the moment, and we'll bring that up later. I think I know who it is. Again, it's what makes this an odd first episode to do, and I do think that is a discussion that as we move forward, I don't know that this had to be the first episode.
It's weird. I mean, what does it... I think when you get 4 series in, though, do you need to have... Does it matter what the first episode is? Because at this point, you know the characters are. You're just moving on. It's just a continuation of the story that you've been telling. So I don't know. I don't think... Well,
my assumption is you come back from a break and you start off with something that kind of shows everybody, and then, you don't do Marooned first, right?
No, that's true. Yeah.
You do backwards first, and then you do Marooned, even though... You could have done it the other way around, but that one was just Lister and Rimmer. So,
and that's kind of what Backwards was, wasn't it, when you think about it? Like, obviously you had the whole dump of, hang on, now we've got Crichton and Holly doesn't look like Holly anymore. But they all kind of got a decent bit of airtime to kind of see how they all work together. Yeah, that makes sense. Whereas this one didn't really. It was very much like Kat was kind of out of it a bit. Holly was barely in it, and it was Crichton, Rimmer, and Lister. Yeah, okay.
Once we get there, I have this feeling we're going to think that number 3, episode 3, maybe could have been.
I see what you're saying. It makes sense actually now you said it that way. Cool. Was that going to do us? Because I'm excited to talk about the next one. That is going to bring us to the end of the podcast. Again, don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Dwarf Memory and Twitter at Dwarf_Memory for all show updates and any other pictures of Blake's merchandise he's going to be getting.
Yeah, more coffees. Please subscribe. There we go. That's really important. We don't miss that. Yes. Please subscribe, rate, and review the show wherever you can, and email us your comments at dwarfmemory@gmail.com. The next episode that we're very excited to talk about, we'll be discussing, is going to be Series 4, which is Episode 2, DNA. So make sure to watch that before you join us on the next episode.
You were lying, Blake.
Yes. It hurt to do it, but it was her best shot at happiness. It's the old story. Droid meets droid. Droid becomes chameleon. Droid loses chameleon. Chameleon turns into blob. Droid gets blob back again. Blob meets blob. Blob goes off with blob. And droid loses blob. Chameleon and droid. How many times have we seen that story?
I suppose you're going to blame me for all this, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Without your lessons, without your bananas and your movies and your aardvarks, none of this could have happened. You're a complete and total smeghead.
Brutal, Blake. You insulted me.
Yes, I can lie, cheat, and be offensive now.
Blake, this could be the start of a beautiful friendship.